All right, welcome to the 360 Sports Show, coming to you live as we do every Sunday at 11 a.m. through Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. You can reach us through the comment sections of any of those live streams. You can also always email the show at the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com. You can reach us anytime through there. Good morning again. I'm Aiden Pizzelli. He's Christian Lauber. A lot to get to today. Obviously, the NFL and the Super Bowl. That's the biggest news of the week, but we're going to run through some of the leftover thoughts and some of the smaller stories before we get to our Super Bowl preview. So if you have any Super Bowl specific questions, load those up. We'll get to them throughout the program. But Christian, I think let's start kind of, there were a lot of exciting games last night, especially for the Boston market. I think you want to start with the NHL and the Bruins in a overtime loss, but a thriller to the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, well, the Caps are kind of rolling again, as per usual. They haven't lost in regulation. A couple overtime losses, I believe, but not in regulation. But the game last night was very, very good. I think the Bruins, like, I didn't expect the Bruins to be as sharp as they have been here in the early part of the season. Like, they have a bunch of kind of new lineup changes. In terms of their D, especially like Kevin Miller's coming back. Who knows? He hasn't played in forever. He's been very good. Same with Zaboral, and these guys have been kind of going at a good clip here early on. And of course, like the Bruins always do, they get down like 2-1, 3-0, and then they have to come back. But they ended up getting a point out of this game, which is huge. And they play the Capitals again. So if you can get 2 out of 4 points here, you take that because these games are they're tough to go back to back. I mean, I know we talked about this a little bit off the air, but like these 2 game sets, it's hard to get 4 points. It's hard to get any points really, especially if you're on the road. And if you can go into DC and get a number of points here, that would be a great thing coming back home.
What do you think about that? I know that's been, like you said, it seems with this little, like with the back-to-back scheduling, now the NHL protocols, guys, and the NBA's tightened up theirs as well. But I think basketball and hockey are different as far as playing the sport. Hockey guys, I mean, they're playing the game and then going to a hotel and they can't leave. I mean, they can't leave their hotel room.
Yeah.
So they're just lying around like the rest of us, playing video games, binging Netflix, trying to somehow buy Dogecoin or GameStop stock, and then having to just go and play another game against the
Yeah.
same team who, depending on how the first game went, is going to be motivated to, hey, if it's the home team, hey, let's get the sweep, or hey, let's split. I feel like it's, again, are we going to cry for $1 million, people being paid millions of dollars to play hockey? No, they're not getting sympathy from me, but I think it's rational to understand that it seems, at least early on, the trend is teams have struggled with this second game of the back-to-backs when they're on the road.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, especially it depends on how the first game has gone, I would say. Like, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia came in here, and they lost the first of the 2, and it was a tough loss, right? So it's close, and then you lose, and then you're kind of annoyed, and then you sit around and wait, and then you come back out, and then that first one goes in against you, and you kind of just sit back and are like, "Well, the hell with this. Let's get home."
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic, but at the same time, I would say like it's good to have these guys, when they're at home, they're with their families and stuff. So it's not like a bubble scenario, at least. Like you're locked in for a few days. And then if you're on a road trip, that obviously is not ideal. But at the same time, they understand. Like they know,
Yeah.
you get through this road trip and you go back home. So I think it's a mindset thing. Obviously, it's a lot different from what they're used to. They go out to restaurants, they get the morning skate in, and then they go out to another restaurant. So it's a lot different. But in terms of that, I just think, it's got to be by team basis. Like I understand it's tough. And it would be annoying for me too, like sitting around all day waiting to play another game. Um, but it's important to, kind of grind through it and win the games because there's not that many. We're already like, I don't know, 1/7, 8th of the way through the season. It's only 56 games. So it's going to be short and you got to get points where you can. So It's just, it's just within the team to kind of come out. But that second of the two, especially if you go down in the first, it's tough to want to come back out and sit around and then play another game and you get wiped. It's just kind of like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. As you said, it's early on. I mean, 9 games played for in that range on average for most of the teams. Some have played 10, some have played less because of postponements and things like that. Has anybody separated themselves early on? Obviously the Capitals are off to a great start, 6-0-3. 3 they haven't lost in regulation. Have Are they kind of right now the team that's along with, I mean, Toronto 7-2-1. Are those two teams separating themselves, or is it really still too early to tell? Who the top dogs are going to be?
It's definitely too early. The only thing I'll say is because you're playing the same team so many times, like eight teams, 8 times, or whatever it is, like these points are going to be tight. So I don't think there's going to be a runaway anywhere. I mean, there might be one or two that is like, okay, the Caps are far and away the best team here, and then everything else is bunched together. Like, it's gonna be a tight race. The Bruins could have a really good year and not make the playoffs because
I
of,
was just about to
the way
say.
it works, right? So, there's gonna be a ton of teams clumped together. Like, you just go right down. It's the Caps with 15 points, Flyers 13, Bruins 12, Pittsburgh 11, Sabres 10. So, there's gonna be a tight race in every spot. And that's just one division, but the rest are, 1, 2 points for just about every team. Obviously, gonna have the lowest teams. Those are gonna be there. That's the way it is every year. There's some teams that just won't get there. But in terms of teams right now, I mean, the Canadians are playing well. The Leafs are going well, and obviously the Caps. Yeah, they haven't lost in regulation yet, but it's gonna be a tight race no matter where you look.
That being said, even though it's obviously still early and it's going to be tight, you want to start well. So it's kind of like the same deal in the NBA. There's teams who it's like, well, they've had a poor start. It's like, well, in a shortened season, starting poor might kind of just it puts you even more behind the 8 ball.
Right.
You see that in baseball. A team starts like, oh, there's still a whole season left. It's like, how often do the standings in April, basically just reflect what happens in September? Are you surprised by teams or worried about teams like the Islanders or the Rangers, who have kind of really stumbled out of the gates here and that people had expectations for?
Normally, yeah. This year, I think there's going to be stretches where you see teams kind of crawl back in it. Now, those teams have the opportunity to. I hope the Islanders don't because they're so boring to watch. Uh, but in terms of like normally when you look at an NHL season because you're playing everybody, once you hit that like Thanksgiving right beginning of December, you kind of see things shake out, and usually, not going with the 2019 Blues who were in last and came to first, but usually teams that are in there tend to make it once you get to playoff time. So the standings are where they are usually at some point in the season, but this season, because of they're only playing these eight same teams, it's definitely going to be interesting because if you get three in a row and the other team that you're playing uh, falls by 4 points, you could be right back in it. So I think you're going to look at teams that might be out of it in the next, I don't know, I want to say you're a quarter of the way through maybe by Thanksgiving's December. So you're probably looking at, you got to get to that like 26, 27 game mark to see where things shake out. But just the way the series type deal goes with the NHL now, where you're playing 2 games against one team, that's a 4 point swing right there if you get two
Yeah,
games. So teams definitely have the opportunity to get back in it. I think once you hit that like 25, 30 game mark, you'll see kind of where people are.
yeah. Um, just really quickly to circle back to the Bruins and the Caps. Um, your thoughts on how David Pastrnak looked in his first action back, and then also how it was seeing Zdeno Chara in another sweater.
Pastrnak was just about as expected. I think, he's got to shake some of the rust off, but he didn't look all that bad or anything shaky. He didn't have any big turnovers in his own zone. Nothing memorable in terms of bad stuff. I know he got hit a couple times, which is kind of good, get you right back into things. But I mean, the worst player in the ice last night was not Pastrnak, it was Rask. So in the overtime one you can get away with because it's Ovechkin just absolutely one of the best goal scorers of all time. What are you going to do? But
Yeah, he tipped the
he did
cap.
not have a good night. But I thought Pasternak came back, and that line looked good once again. They've been good with whoever's out there, Craig Smith, anybody. In terms of Chara, he's about what I expected. I'm surprised they're playing him as much as they are. I think again, Carlson is a guy that kind of can cover for some of that because he's young and he's an elite defenseman in the league. Um, but Chara looks like the same player as last year. I don't see anything that makes me think like, oh, they should have kept him. Like
Yeah.
he's 43, he's gonna be 44 in March. I mean, the guy's older. He was a great player for a long time here. And that's not taking anything away from it. But I think this year I'm fine with what they did at this point. And I by no means do I think Chara is terrible and horrible, but he's good on the PK like normal. And then in his own zone, he can get a little shaky at times. It's just what it is because of age.
Yeah. And it helps to know that the young guys for the Bruins have not completely puked over themselves.
No, exactly.
They've been, so they're gonna have moments. Are they gonna take their lumps? Sure, but they are not. It's not a debacle. Like, oh my God, what have we done? We completely ruined. If they had Chara instead of some of these younger guys playing, I'd say their chances are probably exactly the same. Maybe you like the intangible factor, but at the end of the day, that only takes you so far. And so for them to kind of invest in these young guys and that it's panning out so far early on, hey, it's kind of a win-win, right? Because he wanted to play more.
Yeah, and I want to see McAvoy be the guy. Okay, like he's your kind of like that future first line of defense. And I want to see him play like he has, this season. He's been okay this season. He's had some ups and downs. By no means is he like, in his prime yet. He's like 24 still. So he's still got years to get on here. And also we're only 9 games in. So that could change. He had the tying goal last night. And I want to see him get opportunities that Chara wouldn't allow for. Like get into the offensive zone and make a play. Chip down the wall. Just different things like that. Like he's still covering, two sides of the ice sometimes if they need to switch or whatever with Lozon. But I want to see him be the guy and kind of make strides here without having to kind of, I don't want to blame Chara, but it's like he had to cover two sides of the ice almost half the time. I want to see it look a little different than it has so far, where he's more engaged in the offensive side and he can get back on D if needed.
Yeah. So if you have any other questions or thoughts on the NHL, drop those in the comment section. We're an international show here. Shout out to Brazil. We've got a listener from Brazil right now, so that's pretty cool. The beauty of the internet, connecting people across massive amounts of across the interwebs. So that's pretty cool. But as I said, big games last night in the NHL and NBA market for Boston. Bruins Caps on the NHL side. Celtics Lakers last night. Obviously, another classic game. I mean, I think pretty much anybody. It'll be interesting to see how the market share went out. What the ratings were. But Celtics Lakers, anytime, any place, no, fans or not, is going to be must see TV. Disappointing if you're a Celtics fan. And I know Christian will be able to give us a detailed explanation as to why. I kind of fall down on the side of people weren't sure what the Celtics were. They lose by 1 point to the Lakers. People, I think, weren't sure what the Celtics are. I feel more confident knowing that, yes, do they still have some problems in the fourth quarter that they have to work on.
I can't believe we're doing this again.
Listen, would you rather them have, if they had gotten annihilated last night, you'd be sitting there saying, all right, you lost to the Sixers. You've kind of split with some of these other teams. Are the Celtics even that good?
How many times have we come on here and you've said, the Celtics can hang with every team? The problem is, right, can they beat any team? Okay? Therein lies the difference. It doesn't matter if you can hang with them if you can't win the game, right? Does that count for anything? You get a trophy if you lose? This isn't T-ball. Come on.
It's for a regular season game. Do you think the Lakers are the best team in the NBA?
Probably, yeah. Well,
so,
yeah.
Did you think the Celtics were one of the best teams in the NBA before coming into last night?
No.
Where do you think they rank now? Do you feel like, wow, actually, you know what, they can hang with that
East,
team?
Probably.
If they had gotten I was prepared for them to get completely dominated. and because they're trying to work Kemba back in, he did not play well. But they're trying to just get Tatum was out. They're trying to like get these pieces back, playing together. I just expected them to get steamrolled.
See, I can't. I
And
don't
they
expect
didn't.
them to get steamrolled anymore because Tatum and Brown right now are going so well. The problem is the pieces around them do nothing. That's really what the story is. I mean, these two guys right now are in the top echelon of the league if you look at duos. It's just a fact. I mean, if you look at what they're doing right now, they're playing tremendous. And obviously Tatum went down with COVID, which didn't help. But since he's come back, he hasn't really missed a beat all that much. He's still been very good. And Brown, I think, he should be an early MVP candidate right now, the way he's going on both
Yeah.
ends. I mean, I think there's some defensive lapse, but overall, I mean, Brown to me has been your best player the whole season so far. So those two guys, I think, can keep you in any game. It's just a matter of can the other pieces around them help enough to win a game? That's the problem.
Do you think? I mean, who'd have thunk? I think losing Peyton Pritchard actually was a big loss. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
talk about a miracle. Is it just because you're young, or is it like that, like 1 in 100 chance that you get hit that way and nothing like tears? Because
Yeah.
that looked ugly. That like, oh god, yep, great. We just
Oh, yeah.
lost a potential rookie of the year to an
I
ACL.
immediately said ACL. Yeah.
And
I
he's
thought,
only gonna miss 2 weeks. It looks
yeah.
like MCL sprain.
Well, he's
Um,
shooting already, so that's a good sign.
so he's a guy that they miss because honestly, after those first couple of games, Jeff Teague, blech. He's a nice guy. I think he's a nice guy. He's a nice. He's a nice little player. But if he were a rookie, I'd say like, hey, he's young, developing. As a veteran point guard who you're bringing in to like add some stability and do good things, he's not done enough of that now after the first couple
He
games.
was good for the first week or two, and then he just kind of fell off. I don't know what happened there, but I know he got in. Didn't he get injured? But even so, like I still think Teague is a good guy to have around. I don't know. He's a good veteran presence anyway. Same with Tom. I mean, Thompson has sucked too. Like let's just say it like it is. I mean, he has not done what I thought he was going to do here. He's only getting like 15, 20 minutes a night because he hasn't been good.
Would you rather have Tristan
So-
Thompson and Jeff Teague or Miles Turner?
Fair question. Probably Miles Turner at this point.
Potential defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah.
His 4 blocks a game.
Let's give him credit for that one though. Good job, Danny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be one. Those everybody for the years to come, Celtics fans are gonna be comparing what did Gordon Hayward do down in Charlotte and what is Miles Turner doing in Indiana.
Now, see, the thing is though, it depends on what they do with that exception. So they still have that exception to deal. So if they do something with that, then maybe Danny can be like kind of relieved in a sense that he just went Teague Thompson, we're good.
Yeah.
If not, I mean, look, yeah, like that's a fair criticism.
Yeah. As far as I know you want to focus on the negative, Christian. The positive, aside from saying like, hey, they hung with a great team, I look at the little things of, they were down 7 with like 2 minutes to go, maybe even less. And instead of, quote unquote, going for the home runs, they went for singles and they just got great shots. I mean, Jason Tatum, there was a situation where he got isolated with Anthony Davis. I was like, here we go. Here comes the little step back, side step, fade away 3. And instead, he kind of juked. He gave him a couple moves and then went to the hole and then faded away from like 5 feet and hit a shot. Went to the hole again when it was a 4-point game. Or I think it was a 3-point game. So that was encouraging. We've seen it with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's poise from last year to this year continues to increase, as well as his efficiency. It was about, can Tatum do that as well? Can he be less flashy and more efficient, especially in critical situations? Seeing him decisively drive to the rim, and then once he got close, all right, listen, I'm not going to be able to get up for a shot. Now's the time to fade away. Not just, let me fade away from 25 feet. I thought that was encouraging to see from him. Those are those little things as far as development you want to see.
Sure, yeah, then no, definitely. And I think that's good for Tatum, especially because Look, I think everybody at this point is expecting him to make the move that you just said. He's going to step back on me and he's going to try to take a three. So I'm just going to call it and I'm going to stuff it. So, I mean, especially Davis. Davis is like 9 feet tall when you consider his wingspan. So making a different move there, I think almost, takes someone off guard because they're expecting you to do that little step back. Instead, you kind of cross over and go into the paint, which is good to see. And so, yes, stuff like that is positive. I just think the negative outweighs the positive. So, I mean, it's just once again the fourth quarter blunders where you almost have as many turnovers as you do points. You're not going to win games like that. It's just not going to, especially against a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Can we just say that? I mean, like,
Yeah,
the two of them are not going to lose games where you're just giving them, free shots over and over again. And also the other negative, Smart got hurt. So
that's true.
I
Yeah,
don't know,
and I
like,
think he's supposed to have an MRI today. I don't know if there's been any word on that. That looked at first I thought ACL, but then he was like grabbing his calf.
yeah, calf strain, I guess, but who
Yep,
knows?
just in from Shams, half hour ago. Uh, Positive news: first team all defensive guard Marcus Smart has been diagnosed with a grade 1 left calf strain. Sources tell he will miss some time, but sigh of relief for all. That's good. Um, that's really good because that's what it looked like. Because he like jumped up to go try and block Anthony Davis, and then tried to do hit the ground and then spring right back up again,
Yeah,
and he just couldn't.
must
And
have
then
just
he like took a step and then grabbed his leg and fell over. And at first you're thinking like, oh God, Achilles or something like that, or a hammy. But hey, again, a lot of sitting around. Maybe you're not hydrated enough. I mean, Marcus plays reckless to begin with, so not surprising. It's not surprising he doesn't throw out things more, given the way he throws his body around. Oh, speaking of throwing yourself around, again, I know the Celtics lost the game. Did you see that pass Tatum had? Where he was going out of bounds, and then
around the back,
around the back, up ahead to Robert Williams, who again had a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
That's again more positive developments. Robert Williams actually legitimately contributing, and not just like, oh, he got a lob in the fourth quarter in a blowout game. No, that dude came in and played serious minutes and held his own.
And I would like to see more. I
Threw
feel
down on Anthony Davis.
Also, what is Brad Stevens doing the Belichick with Grant Williams? Is Grant Williams in the doghouse or something?
I guess. I mean, because I don't know what he did. I know he didn't start the season well. Could it be that sophomore wall? I mean, he looked great. He looked fine in the first couple of games. I can't recall him doing something that warranted him going to the bench.
He also came into a few games here in the last little bit. He hasn't played, and then he has. And when he's played, I thought he's looked fine. And I would give him the nod over a guy like Semi. If he's playing well, I think Grant Williams is better. And also,
it might be matchups though. I mean, would you rather have if the bench is going to be out there, would you rather have Semi switching on to LeBron James or Grant Williams?
Does it matter? It's LeBron James. He's going to beat you no matter what.
True.
I'll take my money on Jaylen Brown or
talk about guys who have like really maybe salvaged themselves. I think Semi has had the most improvement from last year to this year. Aside from guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who obviously are ascending stars, just in terms of the rest of the roster, I mean, Semi's a guy that was sitting there without a contract, like without his option being picked up, and then they only picked it up because people thought, oh, this is just going to be thrown onto a trade as filler. That guy has, to this start of the year, has not only just like earned his spot in the rotation, but maybe saved his career because it was going down a road of, hey, you were a second round pick. We wanted you to be this kind of like defense first, versatile, wing, and you kind of get cast off, and hey, that's it. Everybody forgets about Semi Ojeleye.
Yeah, I just worry that this team is getting too dragged down. More importantly, Brad Stevens is getting dragged down in analytics and matchups and things that don't actually matter once you hit the floor against two guys that are the best in the world. So I don't know. I think his rotations have been questionable, especially in San Antonio the other day. So another loss. I mean, they're 5-5 in their last 10. Now, granted, Tatum did go down with COVID. Rob Williams was down with COVID. But when those guys were out, Jaylen Brown kind of picked up the slack, and they didn't play that bad. So I don't know. I just feel like you got to win some of these games. there's not really any room to fall. You're already in like the 5th seed spot, and you're about 1 loss out from being, 6, 7. So there's no games to just take off here. This is not how it works this year.
Yeah. This question's from Pete and Gansett. If the TD Garden is full to the rafters as it would be in ordinary times, is the outcome different in last night's Celtics game?
No, definitely not.
No,
I've seen it too many times.
when they go
I've seen
on
it
that
too many
run to
times.
take the lead in the fourth quarter, they're up 7 in the fourth. You don't think the Garden's going nuts, and maybe the Lakers
Sure.
are like, eh?
Sure, I still think if Kemba's going the way he's going last night, you lose the game no matter what on that last play because he just bricked everything that he shot. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if there's fans. He's not going to make it because there's, Joe Schmo in the third row that he's just like he wants him to cheer for him. Like, no, I don't think so. I think overall, I think they were close. And once again, I don't know. We can question whether Brad should have taken a timeout after they kind of fumbled the ball there, Kemba to Brown, which was not a good pass, by the way.
No, terrible decision.
He got himself in midair for some reason and then just threw it to him. Luckily, they kept it, but that's another question. But if fans are in the building, I just think it's pretty similar of an outcome.
Yeah, I agree. I think referencing the Kemba almost turnover, I was fine with them pushing the ball. Great, push the ball, keep them on their toes, get it, and then get it up the floor, get it to Tatum, get it to Brown. Brown, got put in a really tough spot with that pass. And then once he like fumbled it and like had to like really like work to recover the ball and keep possession, at that point, if I was Brad, I would have been like, all right, 7 seconds, timeout. Because 7 seconds is enough time to really draw up a really great play. On the flip side, like we say that with hindsight, knowing that Kemba eventually bricks a shot, which is a shot he usually should make in his sleep. So maybe you can't, like you said, do you fault Brad? Because can't you fault Brad in the situation? Because would you have gotten a much better look than you got anyways? It's just on Kemba to make that shot.
Yeah, I mean he has to make the shot. He created space nicely as he usually does, and then but the problem was he was like, 1 of 57 last night. He couldn't hit anything. So in my opinion, like, look, I mean, normally, right, if you get a turnover like that, there's no reason to take a timeout, right? So the only reason you would take a timeout is because the situation that they got in where Kemba's in midair and he has to chuck it to Brown, and then it almost goes out of bounds. That's the only reason you would take a timeout there. Other than that, when you get a turnover like that, you want to keep your momentum going with the other guy backpedaling, full head of steam.
Yeah.
And, ultimately, I don't think the timeout would have mattered as much. I mean, maybe it did, but I think you got, I don't know. Does Kemba make that 8, 9, 10 times out of 10? Probably. So he had an off night, and well, he's had a couple off nights, but I think the shot was really good, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Now, personally, right, I would rather, in hindsight, have it in Brown or Tatum last night in their hands. But ultimately, I think you got a really good shot, so you just got to make it.
Yeah. I think fans would make. I don't know. I feel like the teams have been playing without fans for so long now that I feel like they probably don't even know what it would be. I think when fans do come back, NBA home
weird.
court is usually a major advantage. I think it'll be doubled when fans do come back because these guys will be adjusted to not having fans. I know they pump in crowd noise, but it's not the same.
Oh no.
Not at all the same.
You want to tell me the product on the court would have been phenomenal if there were fans? Absolutely, no doubt. The outcome, I think, would have stayed the same. But I mean, look, I've had a number of games now. Like normally, in the last like year, I've gotten used to it, so I'm like, okay, whatever. But the last once hockey and basketball came back here, I'm like, man, I miss the fans in there.
Well, because you're in the actual arenas. You're not in the bubble with like the digital signage, and you're kind of feel like, wow, I'm peering into this event that's like this almost a spectacle of something. It's just they're in an empty arena. Oof. On that note, I tuned into this conference this week by Sportico, which was titled "Fan Experience in a Post-COVID World," and they had like a virologist, they had a bunch of tech people, and they had CEOs and owners of NBA, NHL teams, franchises. And they just talked about this exact situation. Obviously the medical people, went on about, hey, this is what's going on from vaccination standpoint and the virus and the variants and what we have to be mindful of, and testing and spread and blah 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 blah, all that stuff. We've all heard all that stuff before. One of the cool things was this company called Clear, which makes Health Pass, which is an app that I'll tell you about in a second, because it'll tie back into what the owners said, which was that they see this being an issue for like another 2 years. They think they're preparing for, hey, when eventually maybe the laws, whatever's going on locally, because everywhere is different. Some places can have fans right now, some places can't. The Warriors owner, one of them, Joe Lacob, said, listen, California right now, he's like, the fans are not on the horizon for us anytime soon. He's like, maybe if we get enough vaccinations, maybe by next December, we're looking at having fans. And a lot of these places are planning. They're like, hey, when we can bring fans back, it's still going to be limited capacity numbers wise. They're just redesigning stadiums. And the Warriors just redid they just got a brand new place. They're already thinking about like just taking seats out. So instead of saying, well, we're going to rope off this section, try and keep people from going over here. Listen, there's only 2 seats right here and then 2 seats another like 10 feet away. People won't be milling around. Masks in arenas and stadiums until 2022. A lot of them felt that was the sentiment. That being the case, the Health Pass thing, you tell me, Christian, you listen to this, you tell me whether you think it's a good and feasible idea, and 2, whether people will actually do this. So the idea behind Health Pass is you download their app, and it's connected to, you can connect it to your doctor, connect it to your insurance, you connect it to it, you can like purchase tickets through the app, everything, schedule your COVID test. So all of this information is all synced up, it's encrypted, blockchain, that whole deal on the app. So you go get a COVID test. You go buy tickets to a Celtics game. Their working model right now for most of these teams is that you show up. If you don't have a negative test, they test you right there, rapid, and then you sit and you wait in this like holding area. And then you're allowed to go into the game once you're cleared. What this would do is you walk up to like a kiosk and you stand away from it. Because you had to put in your ID, you had to like scan an ID and take a picture of yourself for security purposes on this app. It now has a biometric like fingerprint for you. So it scans your face. It knows you are you. It can see your test results. It knows if you've got a ticket. Infrared takes your temperature, and the gate opens and says, "Hey, you're good. Go on. Enjoy the game." They would do this, and you can purchase. They would have contactless, concessions like this where you walk up and, hey, same deal, no touch, everything. You got money on your account. Hey, I want this, and bing, it comes through a little slot. It sounds nice. What do you think the realistically people willing to buy into that would be? Like, I think it sounds like it would work, but do we think the demographic of sports goers is going to want to... We can't get people to wear masks. Are they going to download this app and put all their information on it?
I was about to say, people can't put a piece of cloth on their face. Yeah. I don't think they're going to download an app, which, it's going to track me everywhere. I'm not doing that. I like the idea. I mean, the way technology is going, I think there's got to be some way to get fans in the building. I mean, some stadiums have, others haven't. I guess it depends on the state, but yeah, I mean, look, I think the idea is good. Will people do it? Probably not. Just, it's much like anything else that you tell people to do or ask them to do for the well-being of yourself and others. They won't do it. So, I don't know. I like the idea. I think it's a nice little like feature where you could just wrap everything into one and then kind of just walk into a stadium. That would be ideal, right? But
yeah, what happens when your temperature is like a degree above what it allows, and some guy it's like, so no, sorry, you can't get in. You picture that? Some fan like, what the?
I honestly think we might need to come up with some type of like bubble boy scenario, right? Where you're in your individual bubble, You got oxygen, you got everything you need in there, and you just walk wherever you need to.
You mean people go to games? Have you seen those? The
Yeah.
like the high end, like helmet mask thing.
Yeah.
Let me see if I for those of you watching live, let me see if I can uh pull this up. The COVID helmet.
It's the
Yeah,
only way to
this
do.
is da, da, da,
Somehow
da.
you can get beer in there with a straw or something. There's got to be a
Oh
way.
boy, this is so bad. So bear with me here while for those of you watching live, you'll get to see this, but like look at that. Like
Yes. That's what we're talking about right there.
everybody's gonna go to the game in those.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, I'm not opposed to it. As weird as that is.
Come on, are you're gonna enjoy the game? You want to be in a lot? Come on. Well, one, this is the other thing they talked about too. Part of live sporting was already starting to struggle because ticket prices are high. What are you gonna get? What more are you gonna get out of the experience? Besides to be like, well, I was there. All these teams have been starting to work on, and this is kind of like a catalyst for that, having to plan for this post-COVID or having fans in an arena, while navigating COVID. What do we do for the fan experience? So, in-game betting is going to become a thing. How do you improve the in-game experience? Just going to a game and like, come on, it's like going to a restaurant. If you had to wear that sitting in a restaurant, at what point is the spell broken of like, well, I'm having a good time sitting in my helmet?
Honestly, okay, so hear me out. Ready? Uh, you know, you've seen Toy
This is
Story,
going to be
right?
your Kashi moment right here.
Yeah,
Go
it is.
ahead.
You've seen Toy Story, right? So imagine this contraption, right, that you see on your screen. And then you have a little button here that, lets you, put it up, right? So you can have a sip of beer and then press the button like Buzz Lightyear has the little thing come over his head. So you press the button, it goes up, take a sip of beer, let it go down, take a bite of hot dog, whatever you want to do, and then you just put it right back down. That's how you watch the game. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of like,
Hey,
whatever you're
internet, Photoshop Christian into a Buzz Lightyear outfit. Go.
whatever you're doing here, I think it's important because so if you see this kind of contraption, right? It's almost like you're sitting in a box seat. So when you go to a game, even if you're in the bleachers or wherever you are, the nosebleeds, it's like you have a
Well,
box
okay.
seat.
Here's what you do. You have this integrated with like Google Glass, so that is not just like a piece of
Exactly.
plastic. You're actually getting like stats coming down like the side.
Exactly.
Now you're talking. So yes, pay your $500,000 to get this high tech helmet, so that you could go to a Celtics game. But that aside, that type of technology aside, these are the things they're thinking about, and it kind of gives you a sense of the landscape. This is going to be something that even once we get back to quote unquote the normalcy,
In my in my predi- my
the fan experience at sporting events is going to be radically
yeah.
changed no matter what.
Well, yeah, and my other thing is I don't think plexiglass at like registers, and I don't think that should go away anytime soon. Or I don't think
No.
it is going away anytime soon, right? Can you imagine like yeah, maybe I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, but right, you're going up to a concession. You're already packed, butt to butt with these people. And it's like you're speaking, they're speaking, there's germs everywhere, flying back and forth, beer flying out. It's like plexiglass just around my face and I'm good. Give me a
Um,
funnel that goes, that gives me a chance and I'm good. I'll go to a game.
that's how you'll get refills. You'll actually sit next to a funnel, and the guy comes around. He's like on the level above you, just pours in the beer
Yeah.
down
But in
everybody's.
all seriousness, right? Like like nothing is going to be the same, I don't think afterwards, right? When you go to a game, there's going to be glass or those hanging, you see them in grocery stores or whatever. There's going to be hanging glass,
Well,
standing glass.
it's just smart. This is the
Yeah.
other thing though too. Talk about the automation thing. If you're on the flip side, if you're like a worker in an arena, I'd be thinking about pumping up my resume, because what happens when they automate all this stuff and
I
now
know,
you're out of a
yeah.
job? That's a whole separate like world type. That's
True.
bigger than sports discussion. You bring up a good point though. I've said this too, not to go off on a total COVID tangent and away from sports, but masks. Maybe people should. I hope there's the people who don't want to wear masks to begin with, and maybe they're only doing it because they want to comply with the rules, and then once the rules are gone, they're going to throw away all their masks. If that kind of takes hold in the Western culture like it has in Eastern culture during, hey, cold and flu season, you wear your mask when you go to the grocery store. Is it going to be something that's like enforced that has to happen?
No.
No. But maybe part of that whole common decency thing, hey, when you're on a train and when you're on the pack, when you think about it now, like riding the subway is like in an era where you're like concerned about contagion. It's like the hot spot. Maybe more of that stuff is done out of courtesy. We would see far less people getting sick just from everyday colds and the flu during the flu season. It would seem this year flu is not that bad because one, way more people went out and got vaccinated, and two, obviously, I mean, there's the element of just people just aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But hopefully, some of these things I think are going to kind of stick in all aspects. Like you said, plexiglass at sporting events. They paid a lot of money to start setting this stuff up. They're not just going to be like, oh, COVID's gone, take it all down.
Well, it's also like you just mentioned, like cold and flu. That stuff is spread the same way. And obviously, I think there's some level of immunity that you build up, as you get, as you're talking to someone or, but we were talking about this the other day too. It's just like birthday cakes, like you're blowing your spit, all that. It's just like, it's wild to think about all these things now. But in terms of just like a sporting event, there's absolutely no way, like maybe even in the winter, in cold sports, you're wearing a mask to your seat and taking it off there or something. I don't know. But
do you have, this will be our last little thing on this kind of tangent. Do you get that, like, you're watching TV now and like two characters are like too close to each other, they're like talking face to face, or they're talking like a stranger on the street? Like, I watch a lot of Law and Order, so it's New York City, guys are like talking to some like guy who's like a witness. I'm like, man, they're not wearing masks. Oh wait, this was filmed in 1998. What am I thinking?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine all like we're not going to go too far. I don't want to go too far into it, but it's just like all the things you did before. I feel like if you're kind of like in a normal spot where you're trying to keep others safe and yourself safe, I feel like now you're thinking about like, oh my God, I did that before. Like I'm just going around talking to people and all of this gunk is flying everywhere. It's just like, yeah, it's wild.
Me and you sitting across from each other at a table,
right?
doing the first 9 episodes of this show, spewing at each other.
6 feet now, 6 feet all the time. That's what my aim
hey,
is.
Well, so wait, Christian, when we get back to doing the show in person with each other, we'll have the plexiglass sheet in between us.
2024, that'll happen probably. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, anyway, yeah, that was, and more of this stuff will come out, but I thought it was interesting. It gives you a window into people are trying to guess when are things gonna change. When NBA owners, which also, by the way, major flex by Joe Lacob, he was in his like office for this video conference, and he had all the championship trophies behind him. Hey, don't pay any mind to all the championship trophies on my mantle there. Yes.
Hey, you gotta flex. Why not?
But when these guys, are in the know. I mean, they're given the best information available to them, like, and they're the ones who have to make these realistic decisions because they have to project 2-3 years out. And if they're talking about, hey, we just built a new stadium and we're thinking of just renovating and taking seats out for the next couple of years so that we could have a full capacity stadium, but it's only maybe like 5,000 people, but at least we can have people in there. That tells you, like, people don't, they're trying not to lose money. And if the decisions they're making give you same deal, like if you have friends who work for like doctors, nurses, pharmaceutical companies, Google, whatever Google's doing should tell you something. Google's not having their employees come back for like another year to come work in person now. That should tell you, that gives you a sense of the timetable.
Well, I think a lot of people think there's just going to be this like, okay, everything's good now, flip of the switch, we're back to normal. It's not going to work like that. It's just not, like even
it's not going to be the magic, like, all clear, everybody runs back into the pool, like when there's like a thunderstorm going by.
Believe me, I would love to get people back in buildings just for the atmosphere alone, but I think it's probably going to start at like, 1,000 to 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people. It's not going to be, all right, everybody, 20,000, let's just fly in there, no problem.
Yeah.
It's just not, it just can't.
So that was just a really interesting development out of that, and it connects to the NBA. As NHL owners on there as well, so it's something that we're cognizant of. No fans, but what's the future of that? What does the future of sporting events look like in general? So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. Um, I'll have to go find. I'm pretty sure they might by now have published the full video of that conference. So it's worth the watch. It's only about an hour. And so to hear these guys talk about this stuff was interesting. So now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's get into some of the NFL discussion. So the Super Bowl is set. Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes, Bucks, Chiefs, for all the glory. Before we delve into fully previewing that game and talking about that matchup, let's just kind of pick through the leftovers of the conference championships. And we'll start with the first game from last weekend. Buccaneers, Packers. Bucks race out to a big lead. They hang out at the end, 31-26. It's kind of weird. The Bucks deserved to win based off of how they played in the first half. They really tried to give it away in the second half. And then the Packers, as much as they gave it away in the first half, made a comeback and then gave it away at the end. So, if you add that all up, the Packers deserved to lose the game. But I was wrong. I'll admit. I didn't think that. I didn't think the Packers were going to play that poorly. I just thought like we said, this was a chance for Aaron Rodgers to change the narrative around him.
Nope.
He didn't.
He doesn't care.
He didn't. And it's the same story. And now I fully believe in Tom Brady because it's just something changed for them late in the season. And I think we doubted them. We looked at the way they played against the Washington football team. And then we looked at the way they played against the Saints, and it's like they're not. And I feel like that they're just not doing enough. But they're just finding ways to win now. And when you add that in with Tom Brady, especially how lights out he was in that first half.
You never listen to me. You never listen to me.
Hey, I mean, I'm admitting. Hey, small victories, Christian. I'm admitting I was wrong. Small victories.
I'll take it.
I still think it says more about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers than it does about the Bucks.
Well, can I? Yeah.
How do you no-show like? And I know Rodgers had good numbers, but I'm sorry. In the second half, when you're trying to make a comeback and your team picks off Tom Brady 3 times, and you go 3 and out field goal, you should have done more. Good is not good enough when you're trying to be, when you want to consider yourself one of the greatest, and you're going against the greatest. So
I got a few focal points for you, right? You can spin off these if you want. So I got 4 for the Packers, right? Head coach blows. Mike Pettin not coming back for a reason. Number 20, I believe his last name is King. Sucks. And Aaron Rodgers. He had 2 opportunities to run in the potential score at the end of the game and then, go for a 2-point conversion. He had multiple opportunities on turnovers by Brady, one of which they probably should have scored on, where they were driving and he threw it off Mike Evans' fingertips and it fell right into the arms of the Packers. So those 4, they did not deserve to win the game when you look at those 4. I think the play at the end of the first half is just one of the worst things I've ever seen.
It's the Greg Williams defense.
Yeah. There's no timeouts for the Bucks, right? You have 8, 10, 12 seconds, something like that. What are they going to do? They're going to throw it either a quick out or they're going to bomb it down the field, which they've done all year, and get a touchdown. Just get the F back. It's like the old Belichick adage, right? On GTFB is that acronym. And they didn't do it. And he got beat for the 90th time that game. Oh yeah, let's put 90 out on the side by himself or let's put 20 out on the side by himself because he hasn't done anything all game, and give up a bomb. That was a killer to me.
And that's typical. That is just Premier Brady. He finds the weak point and just continues to exploit it and exploit it and exploit it. They
All
did
game
that
long.
in the Super Bowl versus the Seahawks, right? I forget. Lane was the corner who broke his arm. Brady threw a pick in the end zone. The guy got it, and then Edelman tackled him, and the guy broke his forearm and like tore his knee at the same time. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Thorold Simon came in, like the fifth cornerback. Who has a good fifth cornerback? No one. So they just picked on that guy. He's the one who Edelman torched the rest of that game, including on the game-winning touchdown. Same deal here. They just kept going back to the well over and over and over again on that guy. Wherever he went, that's where the ball was going. And like you said, Mike Pettin, you have to recognize that on defense. And you can use that to your advantage. You can say, listen, they want to pick on you, so we're going to put a safety over the top, and we're going to give you help. Because at least Brady's going to want to look there first, and then hopefully by the time he gets to his other progressions, because he's going to look here first, maybe our pass rush has gotten home. Instead, they just kept leaving the worst corner on their team on an island.
Chances are, right, if you let the guy stay in front of you and make a tackle, there's no time to go run down the field and kick a field goal, spike it, kick a field goal. There's no time. So they're going to have one play in a field goal, or they're going to have one play in a touchdown. And you cannot give up 7 there. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there's a reason I did not hit on the penalty at the end of the game yet, because ultimately it was the right call, but I think the penalty sucked. Like, that's just such a terrible way to end the game like that.
I agree, except for if they were just like hand fighting, right, back and
They were
forth.
doing it all
You
game
can
long,
see I know,
all
but you can
game
see
long.
it not get called. There's a difference though when you go back and watch, because in real time I was like, that guy flopped. He didn't get pushed, blah blah blah. And then you go back and look, and he's got like a fistful of jersey, and he's like 3 yards behind the guy.
It looked like bubble gum coming off.
It looks bad because the ref kind of stared at it and was like, "Oh God, should I throw this?" And then did throw the flag. If he didn't have a fistful of jersey, if they were just fighting with each other, I don't think they call it. I think that was so. You made it blatant.
Yeah, I understand that, but there was another blatant one where, and I wanted the Bucks to win, but that just represented every call that game was going, by the wayside. They weren't throwing any flags unless it was egregious. And there was a holding penalty on the Bucks, which was clear on the interception that Rodgers threw. Clear. He grabbed his shoulder pad, tugged him back, got back in the play, and picked it off.
But that's what I'm saying. That was more hand fighting, not you're trying to break free and I'm just yanking your jersey back right in front of the official.
See, the only other problem with that is he yanked his jersey. The ball wasn't poorly thrown. He wasn't.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't catching the ball. So that's the only other thing. And
here's the thing,
in
though.
that spot, I just don't. I don't like the call.
It shouldn't have come to that though, and here's why: the decision to not go for the touchdown.
Well, yeah,
is laughable. I get the idea. Wait, I think my defense can get. Let's play the game, right? Okay, say we go for it on 4th and we get a touchdown, and we have to go for 2. What if we don't get the 2? Well, we're going to need to get a defensive stop again anyways. Okay, so maybe you're assuming a defensive stop. So then you start saying, okay, well, if I'm assuming the defensive stop, why not kick the field goal? That way, when we get the ball back, a touchdown just wins the game. We don't have to even worry about a conversion. But now you're starting to assume a whole lot. If you go for the 6 and don't get it, they're pinned on maybe the 2-yard line. And so maybe you get that stop and you get another crack at getting the touchdown. And yes, you'd still need the 2-point conversion, but you're still alive. Kicking that field goal to make it a 5-point game, which again, you still need a touchdown. And you're giving the ball back to Tom Brady, who will get at least, unless you're onside kicking it or squibbing it, is going to get the ball at the 25. And no pressure. He's just going to get a first down and the game's over. It's Tom Brady. Use your gut. Use your brain. Don't let the numbers just say, well, kicking the field goal here, coupled with the fact that the percentages say we could get the ball back and blah, 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 blah. It's so many of these teams have just lost their way in that situation. You should have tried to go for the touchdown because guess what? You want to assume that stop? What if they get the touchdown and don't get the 2-point conversion? Great, you're down 2. You kick off. You say, we're going to play defense. You could get the ball back with 30 seconds, no timeouts. Maybe you complete a pass and kick a field goal to win. At least you've made it a field goal game. Kicking a field goal changes nothing about what you'd have to do on that next drive.
Yeah.
It was mind-boggling.
The right team
Like,
won. I mean, that's just point blank. The right team won.
yeah. So, man, and then I know afterwards, Aaron, they've kind of like maybe things have cooled down. Aaron Rodgers didn't sound too happy after that game.
No, but
Talking about, well, a lot of guys' futures are in question, mine included. He pulled the Ben Roethlisberger kind of woe is me, which
he wants a contract.
it
He wants
it
the
was
Brady deal. It's
yeah.
very similar to Brady Garoppolo. Like he has this guy behind him. He wants a deal that's set in stone. He wants to rip up the contract. He wants to get a new one.
I don't know. I honestly wouldn't give it to him. If I
No,
was the
I think the
Packers,
Packers would be right to move on. I think that's
I would move on because here's why. I think they have a good team. I think they have a really good team. I think they can add to that team, and it it's the intangible. It's the lack of intangibles with Aaron Rodgers that
yeah.
that make me wonder. Right? It's being in this spot again and again and again and not coming through, not elevating those around him or elevating himself, and just kind of like he can't have it both ways, right? He can't want it to be all about him and he's the highest paid guy and he's the best, and then go out there and only put up good numbers, not great, and then like, oh, we'll blame the coaching staff or blame a lack of weapons. It's like, dude, but you want to be the man. Maybe you don't take like $45 million, and we could maybe field more more of a team around you.
Right.
So he wants to have it both ways. He wants to get paid through the nose. He wants to be lauded as the greatest ever, but then take none of the criticism when things don't go his way, and say, "Well, I look at the numbers I put up." I don't know. I think the guy's a dink. So that'll be some of the drama. What happens there in Green Bay. Let's kind of hit on the other game before because we're going to talk plenty about the Bucs and the Chiefs themselves, but we want to kind of pick through the leftovers of the teams that aren't in it anymore. The Buffalo Bills fall to the Kansas City Chiefs 38-24 in the AFC Championship game. The Bills raced out to a 9-0 lead that none of us at all thought was safe. Nobody thought was safe. Might as well still be 0-0. And obviously the Chiefs come storming back. I thought the Bills got a little too conservative in this game. Talk about the same thing. Teams losing their minds, when to go for it, when not to go for it. There was times where the Bills were kicking field goals when they should have been going for touchdowns. Because you have to have a sense of know who you're going against. And what does a field goal do? It was like, hey, we're down 12. Let's kick a field goal and make it a 9-point game. What good does that do? The Chiefs are rolling. They might go get a touchdown again. Like, you have to try and keep up. They still had their chances at the end. They went for a 2 when they shouldn't have. And then they end up recovering an onside kick. And if they had just kicked an extra point, now it's like, hey, we score a touchdown. We're still in this thing. In the end, I think this was a good step for the Bills. I think like making a Super Bowl and like losing it is one of those things, and I'll get into this later when we talk about Brady and Mahomes, is something that can be a detriment to young quarterbacks. So for the Bills to get there, to kind of like start well, play poorly, then come on again at the end, gives them a little fire, and they'll be motivated. They're going to be a really good team again next year. So this was kind of like, hey, the Bills, this was just another step in your ascension. Take it, learn from it, move on. They'll be back.
The only thing I question,
aside from some play calling, I really can't. The Bills, nobody thought they were going to win, and I don't think they were going to win anyway. So
they were
it just could have been a little. It could have been a little closer.
They were going pretty well though. Josh Allen didn't have a great game, so he's got to build on something next year. He's got to bring some level of consistency and see if he can still kind of bring more growth to his game. But if I was the Buffalo Bills in this game, what are the two guys that might want to cover one time? Maybe Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. I think those might be the guys, and both of them absolutely went off in this game. I mean, Tyreek Hill went for 9 catches for 172 yards. Chances are, if you're giving up that many yards to one guy, you're gonna have trouble winning the game because that's almost 2 football fields by himself. And Kelce another 13 catches, 118 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, that's my one question mark with the Bills coaching staff is a lot of teams lose to the Chiefs. And if you're going to lose to them, I might want to take out one of those two guys. I don't know, to give yourself some type of chance. Because if those two guys go for like 300 yards alone, you're not going to win the game. It's just not going to happen. Obviously, Mahomes is excellent, and the turf toe, he must have been feeling pretty good because, again, the guy's an absolute stud. I don't know how much more you can say because, like, that's my analysis of the game is the Chiefs are better. That's just what it is. I mean, that team is just ready to go all the time. They get behind constantly, and they score 80 points in 2 seconds, it feels like. So, I mean, they're just ready to go, and this is kind of like that new aged. It's looking like they're going to string some years here together.
I agree defensively, and Romo was calling for it all game. It was like, you have to press Travis Kelce. You can't give him a free release. It's amazing that more teams haven't tried to duplicate what the Patriots did to them and do to them the last 3 years, which is, listen, you play somebody that's going to press Kelce, maybe even chip him. Have your outside linebacker knock him as soon as he comes off the line and then rush the passer. Because Mahomes is so good at like stepping up and getting away that you're better off almost kind of delaying your rush, at least from one spot. Because then maybe instead of you being like now behind the play, Mahomes is stepping up into you if he's trying to get away. The Patriots play them really well. You've seen Belichick too. Guys like Anthony Gonzalez, what do? He puts like 2 guys on him and they just maul him at the line. They're like, listen, we are not letting you get off the line of scrimmage.
How many times
and then double
said,
Tyreek Hill and make somebody else beat you. Bring an extra rusher. Bring 4. You can't bring more than 4 people. Maybe occasionally you could bring 5. But they have to be coming from different areas. Unless you have, which the Bucs do, 4 really good defensive linemen that could get straight up, just really get after it. You have to kind of be exotic and say, well, I'm bringing a corner and a linebacker, and this DN's dropping out, and you make them have to think about it. But like you said, it starts with chipping Kelce and doubling Tyreek Hill all over the field, and just saying, these are your 2 favorite guys. We're going to make it hard for you to get them the ball. And make Nicole Hardman beat you. Make these other guys beat you. Letting Kelce just get free releases off the line of scrimmage is just not a recipe for success by anybody. So that is, a major gripe with the Bills' defensive game plan there, because you don't go into a game saying, hey, we're going to let Kelce get 200 yards. That's how we're going to win. No shot.
Yeah. No, I thought the game plan was not good. Like, you can't let those 2 guys go for 300 yards and 20 catches. It's not going to work.
Yeah. So, like you said, not much analysis needed. Chiefs better. That's just a fact. I want to get into this Tom Brady discussion because it's honestly, and I know we've talked about this a little bit last week too, but it's amazing what the guy continues to do. And I know I had a lot of like hard stats last year and rankings and kind of deeper. This is, I want to read off a list of names to you, Christian. And you can tell me at the end what all these guys have in common. And I've got a little analysis here of this list. So we lose scope of Tom Brady's career because of how long it's been. You start to forget things. So I'm going to read you this list. Ready? Rich Gannon, Cordell Stewart, Kurt Warner, Steve McNair, Peyton Manning, Jake Delhomme, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Donovan McNabb, Byron Leftwich, Chad Pennington, Philip Rivers, David Garrard, Philip Rivers, Tim Tebow, Joe Flacco, Matt Schaub, Andrew Luck, Joe Flacco, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Alex Smith, Brock Osweiler, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, Blake Bortles, Philip Rivers, Pat Mahomes, Jared Goff, Tyler Heineke, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. You know what that's a list of?
Everybody's beaten.
Everybody he's beaten. If you want to decide GOAT, who's the best of all time, Tom Brady has a resume of Hall of Fame quarterbacks that he has beaten in the playoffs or the Super Bowl. Like this kill list. This is the kill list. This is the Tom Brady kill list. It is unbelievable. You just look, and the thing is, and I said this last week, the guys he stood in the way of in the AFC, I mean, it's unbelievable. The guys who have had just you don't know what their careers could have been because Tom Brady was standing in the way, and now he's screwing it up in the NFC. He just knocked Drew Brees into retirement. Thank you, Drew. I'm going to blow all of your career stats out of the water now, and may have just knocked Aaron Rodgers off the Packers because he's so upset and disgruntled there now. It's nobody else even compares to having this, and this is just playoffs. Obviously, which is what matters for quarterbacks, as we talked about.
Right.
Nobody else's career even compares to this. And here's the thing we talked about, and this is why it's going to be important about Mahomes, I think, winning the Super Bowl. The guys he's beaten in the Super Bowl and the teams. Now, I don't think the Chiefs are going to fall off next year no matter what. But it's what Brady has done in terms of derailing other teams and especially the Patriots, what they did as far as ending dynasties for potential dynasties or ending careers. These quarterbacks, these teams they've played, here's what happened to them next year after teams that lose the Super Bowl. Kurt Warner, following year, they went 7-9. He lost his starting job. Following year, he's cut. And the Rams aren't good again, really, until McVay gets there. Jake Delhomme, they go 7-9. He loses his starting job. They do make the playoffs 2 years from then, but they're really he never performs the way he did through that. He was having the Joe Flacco type postseason in 03, where it's like he's a guy that just is like, Jake Delhomme, is this good? Like what? And then obviously he ends up getting cut down the road and retires. Donovan McNabb, 6-10 the next year. He gets hurt. They miss the playoffs. He never makes another Super Bowl. That was his chance. That was him and the Eagles and Andy Reid's chance to finally break through after making all those conference championships in a row. They do make one more, but they lose to the Cardinals, who were 7-9 that year in 08. And he has a 2-2 playoff record after that Super Bowl, and really kind of that was his peak. That was the best of McNabb, kind of. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's been great in the regular season, but that following year, after losing that Super Bowl, as they did dramatically and controversially to the Patriots with the whole play call on the goal line, they go 10-6. They win a wild card game. Guess what? It was because Blair Walsh shanked a 2-yard field goal that should have won the game. That was that win that year. He hasn't gotten out of the divisional round since. Russell Wilson is 3-5 in the playoffs. In the last couple of years, some of those are disappointing. This year is disappointing. He was like quasi MVP level Russell Wilson. Falls on his face. Matt Ryan, we know what happened to the Falcons after losing that Super Bowl. And they've continued to decline and lose games. And Matt Ryan is a guy who could get traded. They might ship him out of there this year. Jared Goff. His career still has things to go. We're going to get into him in a minute. But they go 9-7, don't make the playoffs. Brady is just his ruined teams. Like, what would have happened? Look at a guy like just in the blip here in the middle. Andrew Luck loses to Brady twice in the playoffs. Knowing that his career was so short, could Andrew Luck have won a Super Bowl if it wasn't for Tom Brady and the Patriots being in his way? Potentially. I mean, look at Phillip Rivers, same deal. And now, Tom Brady, who's beaten Pat Mahomes once in an AFC Championship game. Mahomes didn't have to deal with him last year, but they had to kind of deal with themselves. Getting down 24-0 is not ideal to the Houston Texans. Being down 10 in the Super Bowl is not ideal. Now, they came back and won those games, give them credit. But what will be the narrative if Pat Mahomes goes out and loses this Super Bowl to Tom Brady? A guy that he's chasing. People think he could be that next guy. Not only would you have lost twice to him, but now Brady would have 7 rings. Do you have to win 8 to catch him? There's so much of that stuff at play now, this coming week, a week from now, in that game. And the analogy I've used is Tom Brady is like Godzilla, right? He's the guy that Pat Mahomes is trying to like become the alpha, and like it's the equation balancing itself. Well, if there's going to be a Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady is naturally the one who he's going to have to face in the Super Bowl, because it's going to be one of those moments, I think. And we don't know what Pat Mahomes' career will be, but if you want to be greatest of all time, if you ever want to be in that discussion, it starts with winning this Super Bowl against the guy that is the greatest of all time. Because if you don't, he's going to distance himself further from you. the alpha will have, restaked his claim at the top of the mountain. So I think it's very fitting that we've got Brady Mahomes, because you can directly have that conflict and that analysis. I don't know. I just think this list alone, again, a Hall of Fame resume of of quarterbacks that he's knocked off. Nobody else has done that. That alone is GOAT status. So,
Well, no, I mean, yeah, he's 33-11 in the playoffs. It's like 750 winning percentage. So, I
yeah.
mean, there's no question he's the greatest of all time. Now, Mahomes has, who knows, the way quarterbacks are playing nowadays, maybe 15 more years, 17 more years. So, I mean, we really know nothing. I mean, if he wins this game again, in the Super Bowl, he's already got 2 and he's got 15 years ahead of him. Who knows?
Yeah.
But at the same
But
time,
if you
yeah, I
lose,
mean,
but if you lose, not only is it, well, you've lost a Super Bowl, you lost one to the guy who theoretically people want him to chase. Like, it's compounded.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I get part of that, sure. But at the same time, I don't think he's looking at it like that. If he loses,
Oh, I don't think he is. I think he's focused on he's
I
not
mean,
caring about that right now.
the title game is, Brady beat Mahomes, and then Mahomes came back the next year and won the Super Bowl. So Mahomes is a different cat. I don't think he's like one of these other guys that's just going to take a punch to the chin and just kind of just like, well, it's Tom Brady, so we lost. No, I think he's a little bit of a different cat, and he's got guys around him, and he's, ultra talented, and he's also got, who knows, 20 more years left on his deal.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? I think Mahomes, if he wins, he's so young still. That team is talented. They can keep it together for a while, but theoretically, if he's going to win 6 or 7 Super Bowls in his career, winning back-to-back years will be great. Be the first guy to do it since Brady. But what can Mahomes be getting paid top dollar when, say, like, how many years do you think Kelsey has left to be dominant? 3? Maybe?
Yeah, 3, 4.
Tyreek Hill. How long is he going to be able to be dominant? And pay him. If these guys want to keep getting paid, what happens when pieces start getting taken away from that roster? That's going to be the true test for Mahomes. Because I think right now, with Andy Reid and this roster, yeah, the guy's unstoppable. I mean, they're pretty much unguardable. Andy Reid retires. They don't have Tyreek Hill. Can Pat Mahomes play with Chris Hogan and Austin Collie? I don't know. We don't know that yet. That'll be the true test for him, unless they are able to just keep putting elite talent around him. That's why I think for him, win as much as you can now with this roster while they have it.
Yeah, I mean, no question. But at the same time, he's going to be a guy. Now, obviously, money talks in the NFL. If you pay someone enough, they're going to come to your team. But Mahomes is a guy that is going to be similar to like a Brady or a Manning or one of those guys that you see and you want to go play with. So it'll be interesting to see whether guys. I mean, look, we're not talking the Patriots here. Other teams pay people, so in like real dollars. So they'll be able to find people to get, stick around him, and they'll be fine. Just a matter of how long they have with this core group on the offensive side.
Yeah. I mentioned a couple of quarterback names in this kill list here for Brady. One of them being Jared Goff, who last night shipped to Detroit. The Lions and Rams swing a trade, 2 first-round picks, and Jared Goff gone to Detroit. Matt Stafford heading to LA. Good for the Rams. I've said for a while I was shocked that they paid Goff because he's talking about system quarterback. I thought, this is more McVay. Why is he giving this guy this money? He could just go out and get a quarterback in the second round to do what this guy does. Hand the ball off on the stretch and then just go play action and dink it to somebody. Why are you paying Jared Goff $100+ million? So they get away from him. They were ready to cut bait. They improve their quarterback situation. The Lions, man. Before this trade even happened, and we knew who their quarterback was going to be because we figured Stafford was on the way out. I said, book it. 0-16. Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. Bleh!
Yeah. Uh, Not ideal. I mean, if you're looking at coach quarterback tandems, they're at the bottom of my list. Yeah. They don't crack the probably the top 20, 25. They're in the bottom 5 of the league. Yeah. Not good.
Yeah.
But
Um,
on the other side, the Rams are gonna be they should, as long as Stafford can stay healthy, their defense is already, in the top of the league, and you get a real quarterback in there with McVay, they could and they should have something going there with, the guys around him with Cup and Woods, and so the
yeah.
Rams should have improved, uh, very, very much. They should be in the top half of the league.
Yeah. Do you think what the asking price ended up being for Stafford was more to do with the fact that the Rams wanted this deal and they wanted them to take back Jared Goff, so that's why it was like 2 first-round picks, or was it 2 or 3? I have to pull up the trade again. Do you think that's the reason why the the price ended up being so high? Was because listen, you want us to take back Jared Goff in that contract? Yeah, give us a little something extra.
It's probably part of it, honestly. But I just yeah. I mean, the price was high as is, but getting rid of Jared Goff, I'm sure you had to throw in like a second rounder or
Yeah,
something.
it was 2 firsts and a third, so
Yeah.
three draft picks.
So something
Um,
tells me that third round pick came from the Lions side saying, yeah, if we're taking this guy, you got to throw in a little bit more than that. So, but I'm doing that. If I'm the Rams, I'm doing that every day. No
if you
question.
were the New England Patriots, should you have done this deal?
No.
Should you have given 2 first-round picks for Matt Stafford?
Nope. Too much. Not for the Patriots. Uh, and nor do I think they would. I mean, look, the team is what they are. They've done the same thing, their entire existence here with Belichick and Kraft, which is look at the bottom of the market for the quarterback. And even when Brady was here, they paid him, below in terms of real money. They paid him below other guys and gave him incentives to reach. But I think post Brady, I think you're going to see they're going to look in the bottom of the market. I mean, without the last 20 years, it's been Cam Newton, who was $1 million. So,
Yeah.
no, I don't think they should have made the deal. I would have gone. I don't think you go and pour too many picks into that.
Would you give up that or more for Deshaun Watson, who is going to be on the move?
Probably. He's younger, probably more talented. But again, Deshaun Watson is not going to be coming to New England. I can say that pretty certainly.
Um, you bring up what the Patriots will probably do, and you talk about second round or paying guys, trying to get guys on a bargain deal. This is from Brad Kelly, friend of the program. Our NFL draft and scouting expert. You can follow him at Brad Kelly 17. And we'll be having him on in a couple of weeks when we get closer to the NFL draft to break down this stuff. Because this is going to be an NBA-esque offseason, I think, for the NFL for the first time, maybe ever, with the quarterback movement
Yeah.
and player movement. And with the amount of draft picks that are just being thrown around. But this is what he says. Detroit's number 7 pick now becomes the trade target of multiple teams to secure their quarterback of the future in this upcoming draft. Panthers, Broncos, 49ers, Patriots, Washington, Bears, Colts, Steelers could all be in play depending on how the trade and free agency market plays out. If you're moving up to 7, you're looking at a guy like a Trey Lance at that point. If
Yep.
you're the Patriots, does that, if you're gonna package together 15 and a third or a second for Trey Lance, does that do it for you, or would you rather just stay put where you are and maybe wait on a guy like a Kyle Trask or somebody else who's going to be like a second round quarterback if you're the New England Patriots?
If they identify a guy, I want them to go get that guy. Like we've seen that before. Mahomes, they targeted him in Kansas City. They went up, they got him, and look at what the player is. So if you like a guy, I think you always go get him, especially for the most position in sports. But I will say, like, it depends on who's available. So I'm big into like if Garoppolo were to come back here and you could get him for like a pick, swap with the 49ers, I do that deal because Garoppolo's been here and he's kind of that good midway bridge guy where he knows the system. He's worked with Josh. He was pretty good here when he played, and then you can go identify a guy if you don't like anybody in this draft.
Yeah.
So it would seem that they would like somebody in this draft just based on how many quarterbacks are available. But who knows? I mean, they do their own thing when it comes to pretty much everything. So yeah, if Garoppolo's available or other free agents, maybe they go get that guy for a bridge and then look for a future quarterback.
Yeah. One of the teams he puts the Broncos in parentheses because while they're there, I think they do like Drew Lock a lot. So you can imagine them passing on a quarterback. As will, the teams that are above Detroit, teams like Cincy don't need a quarterback. Philly, you imagine they're going to roll with Jalen Hurts, and they're also paying Carson Wentz still. So until they can get rid of him, or maybe they just go back to him because we're paying you $40 million, we might as well use you. The Eagles probably won't be drafting a quarterback. However, we made fun of Dan Campbell last week. Have you heard the new Eagles head coach in his press conference?
Yeah.
I'm gonna play this. We're gonna play this.
Yeah.
This is too good. It's too bad not to share. What's crazy is given the way things went down for Philly, they fired Doug Peterson. Now, maybe he was on his way to being fired anyways after this year, but maybe not. I think he really just got fired because what we said, a fireable offense. They quit. He quit on. He intentionally threw a game. So what? They could move up one draft spot, and basically, I think probably lost the locker room just with that one decision in that last game of the year, and so he got fired. So you're trying to regain the locker room. You want to make a hire. You want to get the locker room back together. You tell me if this. You tell me if this does it for you. Let's see here.
Next thing that's very important to me is that we build a smart football team, that we have a smart football team here. And I know we have the people in place to do that. The first part of being smart is knowing what to do. We're going to have systems in place that are easier to learn. All right, complicated to the defense or offense that they're going against or the special teams group they're going against, but easy for us to learn. Because when we can when we can learn our system and we can get good at our system, then our talent can take over. Less thinking equals talent take over, but we need to have systems in place, and we will have systems in place to do so. Next thing is
systems.
Like what is that? What's that meme of like the kid who's just like, well, then when I come into and then when you do
and you do and you want and you can't and you think and you do and you yeah, we're gonna have.
You think the Philly, at least Dan Campbell, I think the locker room maybe he's fired up like, I guess we're biting off kneecaps. It's at least that's football. What is that?
We're gonna
tell me that guy aced his interview.
Systems. We're gonna have a system. We're gonna put systems and systems, and we're gonna have one of those systems.
The guy might be a genius. I think he's gonna have to do some work in the locker room already. If I'm an Eagles player and I'm watching that, I'm going, oh my God, what is that?
They're gonna go undefeated. Watch.
No shot. I just think now. Listen, hey, it's one instance. The guy is not even coached a single game. He is not. He's probably only just met with the team. That just does not inspire confidence at all, does it? Right?
There's no way it can. No.
Like that's just Nick. What's this guy's name? Nick Sirianni. Doesn't that just seem like a guy who is just like that? That sounds like a coordinator talking, right?
Yeah.
Like that does not sound like a guy, like a head coach. This sounds like a guy who's a coordinator.
This is the way the head coaches are. They grab coordinators from different teams, and then they ultimately fail usually. So,
and then we'll have. But the thing he's talking about being smart and like we're being prepared and knowing what to do and when, while like stammering through what he's saying. Yeah, like we're gonna know when to. We're gonna be smart about when we but.
This is the best. This is the best coach for a peewee team in the country. That's basically what I heard there. Yeah.
Oh my God. that was just painful. Especially, we already knowing some of the other head coaching candidates who are still out there. It's just, all right. So, anyways, it's time for us to actually break down this Super Bowl, and just and kind of give our take on what's going to happen. I already know who I'm picking, and why. Why emotionally I'm going to pick, and why I'm rationally going to pick as well. But I'm gonna let you go first. What do you think? I mean, what's the breakdown of this game? I mean, I think it should be a great game, but how's it going to play out?
Well, I think I'm hoping Bruce Arians is going to watch what the Bills did and say I'm going to do the exact opposite of that on the defensive side of the ball. One thing I will say, I think the Bucs need to be able to run the ball in this game a little bit, and I think Fournette can do that potentially. Same with Jones, but mainly Fournette since they featured him a bunch more. But look, I think ultimately, if there's a guy that's going to be able to take it to Mahomes, it's Tom Brady, and this is going to be one of those games. I think it could go where the Chiefs just absolutely blow doors like every other time they get on the field. I think there's a possibility of that. But this game, I look to the Bucs defense to make some adjustments and hopefully take one of those two guys out, and then they got to get to Mahomes somehow, some way. But the key for me is on the offensive side for the Bucs. If they're turning the ball over, look out. Game's over right there. So they got to take care of the ball, and they got to be able to run it a little bit just to kind of slow down, the tempo of the Chiefs. The Chiefs can get down 21 and then, be up 36-21. So you gotta take the ball out of their hands, number one. And again, I think turnovers, like any other NFL game, turnovers really decide games. So if Brady makes mistakes like he did in the second half last time, Mahomes is a guy that's going to pick you apart and take advantage of those, whereas Rodgers maybe not. He's never really done it in crunch time. Mahomes has already, and he's only been in the league, 4 years, 3 years? So that's a big key. Turnovers and defense for Tampa, and I think Brady's got to do what he does. And I'm taking the Bucs.
Okay, because I was going to ask you. So who are you picking? As you know, I've admitted I was wrong about this Buccaneers team, and now looking at them, I mean, I said they hadn't. Their resume was their only win versus a good team was against the Packers in like week 3 or 4, where the Packers just kind of like puked over themselves and the game got away from them, which it started to do again in the NFC Championship game, and they put themselves in a position to win and couldn't. But hey, the Bucs have beaten 2 really good teams, and honestly, if you want to throw in Washington, if Washington had an offense at all, that game was there for Washington as well. So they've faced quality opponents here in the playoffs, and they've come through. And honestly, they've been a different team now when you really look at it since that first Falcons game. And that's where Brady talked about they found themselves. They were down big to the Falcons. They come back and win. Because at the time, I mean, who knows? They may have been in a position where they could have missed the playoffs if they lost that game. That's how fast a season can turn, one way or the other. And so now Brady's made the Super Bowl, and from an emotional standpoint, I'm rooting for him now because I'm a fan of Tom Brady. I'm a fan, obviously, of what he did for us here in New England, and I've always thought it was idiotic, and we've talked about this before, making Super Bowls and whether you win it or lose it, people holding it against you. Oh, well, you lost the Super Bowl. It's like, well, okay, great, but I got there. Like, it's better for Joe Montana to flame out in the divisional round. It's better for Aaron Rodgers to lose home game after home game after home game and not lose the Super Bowl. How is that at all? How do you can't? It's a dumb argument. And if Brady loses this game, there'll be the people who say, well, he's 6-4 in Super Bowls. It's like, come on, like, shut up. So I don't want those people to have that ammunition. I want to just pile on. I want those Tom Brady haters to just have to squirm even more and try and come up with a reason why. Well, 7-3, but you lost to Eli Manning. So it's like it it would make my day to see those people, the Max Kellermans and all these other people, just squirm even more. So emotionally, I've decided I'm rooting for the Bucs, and that Brady has reached his he did it. I think he had to go to the well earlier than he thought, but he's already back to Super Saiyan mode, where he's just gonna find ways to win games. Same deal I said last week. If it's a one possession game, like Bucs down 4, 2 minutes to go, is anybody going to doubt that Tom Brady's going to take them down the field and they're going to go win the game? No,
Probably not.
not at all. They have it rolling right now, and I also like all the storylines of he's the GOAT, Mahomes is trying to come for the throne. They get to face each other. There's the narrative stuff it's overflowing with storylines. Breaking down the game itself and the matchups, turf toe ain't going away from Mahomes. That's not going away in 2 weeks. It's not going to go away in a month. I worry that
really affected him in the Bills game. Yeah, oof.
Sure, but I'm saying all it takes though is you feel fine and then you plant weird one way and then you're limping again.
In the Super Bowl? No.
I think. Hey, but I'm saying that is still going to be there. How much it affects him, we don't know.
He's not going to feel it. His toe's going to be injected with something. We'll see.
But I'm leery of that. All it'll take is one. Andy Reid calling sprint option right again and him getting croaked. I'm leery of that. And also, the Chiefs' offensive line is in tatters. And if there's one strength that the Bucs have on defense, it's their front seven. It's their linebackers and that D line.
Yeah.
So, will the Chiefs find way? I can't conceive, aside from the, just like you said, massive amounts of turnovers, this being a blowout one way or another. But I think the injuries on the offensive line and Mahomes, if he's hobbled at all, or takes a big hit or gets rolled up on that leg just once or twice the wrong way, and he's slowed down a bit, this is going to be a close game. And I think it'd be a close game even if the Bills go out there and play the same stupid. The Bucs go out and play the same stupid defense the Bills did, because the Bucs at least will be able to put up touchdowns, whereas the Bills were kicking field goals. So I think it's going to be close, and I just think the story of it's too crazy. It's almost too crazy to believe. And how many times has Brady been on the right side of that? So I am picking the Bucs to win the Super Bowl, and beat Kansas City and delay
the Bucs are going to lose.
Delay yet another quarterback's ascension.
You waited till the final game of the season to put the jinx on them.
Well, here's why.
Pick them every week and they've won, and now here you come. You're just going to run me right over. Pick the Bucs, and now they're going to lose. Great.
So here's why, Christian. I've decided. So on the record, I'm picking the Bucs, and I know we're picking this game a week ahead of time, but that's because we do the show on Sundays. So picking it on Sunday, while our live audience will get the benefit of that, we want the podcast audience, who we're also loyal to, who listens to this throughout the week through Sounder FM, to get our analysis and our pick. Obviously, if somebody gets hurt in practice this week, we'll change our picks probably next weekend. But we're both going Bucs. I've decided it's in the rooting interest of New England sports fans to root for Tom Brady and the Bucs. And here's why.
You're just coming to this conclusion now?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Here's why. Now that he's made the Super Bowl, if he wins, more of the fire, I think, gets lit under Bill, maybe from Kraft, to go out. I think Bill would have been happy to say, I'm going to go get an Alex Smith. I want the 15th. I want the median quarterback. I can win a Super Bowl with mid-level quarterback. Now, Cam Newton ended up being bad, not average. But I can win a Super Bowl with average quarterback. If Brady goes out there and wins it this year, maybe Kraft isn't willing to say, okay, Bill, I'll give you 5 years to win one more with whoever you want. Maybe they say, go get Jimmy Garoppolo. Go get Aaron Rodgers. Give up 4 first-round draft picks for Deshaun Watson, because we'll have him for 10 years. I think if Brady wins, maybe more of that pressure gets ramped up. If he didn't make the Super Bowl or he loses this, maybe it's kind of like, well, Brady hasn't won one yet, so it's kind of 0-0.
If it's not ramped up at this point, Brady just literally got in his Lamborghini and smoked you in your little Toyota Camry. That's basically what happened.
Hey, don't hate
So-
on the Camry, man.
Yeah, I forgot you had a Camry yet. But the point still stands, right? The Camry's a nice car for, an average person. A Lamborghini is a sports car.
I think Bill wants to prove that, but that exactly.
I still
I
can't
think
believe you just jinxed this whole season though. After all the picks against, didn't you pick the Saints, the Packers, and the Redskins or the
Oh no
football
no no!
team?
Oh no! I did not pick the football team. No.
Okay,
No
but you picked the Saints and the Packers, right?
yeah. Because because it was also part emotional. I wanted them to. Now I decided that it's better off that he's there now. Win it. Go ahead. Shove it down everybody's throats now. You're there.
I'm offended that you just came to that conclusion. I'm offended.
Come on. This is not this picking the Bucks now is hardly a Kashi pick, right?
No, it's like Akashi jinx is what it is. I think they're gonna lose now. Now my head, now I got the wheel spinning. Like, should I pick the Chiefs because I think they're gonna lose?
You really think I have
That's
that
where
much
I'm at.
power, Christian?
I don't know.
You
I
really
hope
believe
not.
in the
I
power
hope
of my words.
I believe in the opposite of your words. The power is in the opposite take. So now I'm like, I got a week to change my pick.
What do you think of that, though? I mean, I agree the pressure should be up anyways, but I think especially if Brady wins a Super Bowl, the pressure might be on Bill to say, listen, I know you want to prove you can win with the Camry. How about I give you a Lexus? Right?
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's a fair point, but also at the same time, like if I'm not feeling pressure after this, like, okay, Brady went to a Super Bowl and loses to Mahomes, ha ha. Now we don't have to do anything. Like that's a wrong angle from Belichick because he looks real bad right now. So if the pressure's not already high, and now if Brady goes and wins this thing, it better be at like, Bill, you got like a year to 2 years here, and if you're in like 7-9 territory, you're done. I mean, that's just what it is. Like, I think that puts a lot of pressure on him to get somebody in here and win games.
Does obviously I think like I agree. No matter what, round 1 has gone to Brady here.
Oh yeah. TKO,
If you're gonna try and compare, right? Because I think both of these guys wanted this. People said they should.
Mhm.
People keep having this. Oh, the Patriots should have brought Brady back. I don't think clearly this is what he wanted. He didn't want to just go win another Super Bowl as a quasi game manager. Hey, when you need me to make plays, I'll make plays, but I'm just part of the team that's winning. He wanted to go out there and prove, as he has, that he can still throw 40 touchdowns and be an MVP elite level quarterback. He was not going to do that with this roster.
No.
If he bought in, could they have coached it up and gone and won another Super Bowl leaning on the defense and the running game and Brady's experience? Absolutely. Does he value a 7th Super Bowl that way versus a 7th with, as you said, driving the Lamborghini? This one means way more. Even not winning this one, I think would mean more. Just he's proved his point.
Yeah, he's already got there. Yeah, he's there. He's won.
So
He's won.
they clearly both wanted this for this year. Now, say Brady wins one. If Belichick wins one, and at the end of, say, the next 4 years, it's 1-1, and Bill retires, have we learned anything? Have either of them one up the other? Like, Bill wins with quarterback X, Brady won on his own. All we've proven is that both of them are still the greatest? Or does Bill have to do more since he's the coach to prove that it wasn't Brady?
No, I think Bill has, well, theoretically, right? The decision was made to take Belichick over Brady because the longevity, right? Brady said 45 for a long time. So if he's got 2 years left, Belichick's got 3 to 5 to get that wins record. There's more room for Belichick to, and if they each win one, I think that just tells me what I already thought, which is a combination of the two is something you'll never see again, really. I mean, the two were great when they were together, and the difference was when they separated, they only won one, as opposed to 3 out of 4 or whatever you want to say there in the initial start of the dynasty in New England. But I think right now it's swung Brady's. He's heavily in front now.
Round 1, he decisively wins, unanimously wins round 1.
Yeah.
This is this is just kind of breaking news from Tommy Curran. Source: Stafford told Lions he'd take a trade anywhere but New England. I guess Stafford. Now, we wondered, did Patricia factor into any of this at all? Would he want to see that guy walking the building? Turns out not. I guess it was that Stafford nixed the notion of being the guy that replaces the guy that failed to replace the guy. So because Cam Newton sucked so much this year, he didn't want to come in because all the Brady expectations would have just been placed on Matt Stafford, which is I've always said. Like, you don't want to be the guy that replaces the guy. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced the guy. So now we can circle all the way back to, should you have just played Stidham all year? And if he at least was average and didn't suck, and you're like, hey, we want an upgrade, nobody's going to be looking at Matt Stafford as like the savior, just as like, oh, this is an upgrade. Whereas now, because Cam Newton looked like a potential lightning in a bottle and then crashed and burned so heavily, people are just looking at Stafford as like, well, you're the next guy, not, well, you're just an upgrade from where we're sitting. Now you have to reevaluate everything. If they wanted Stafford, because I thought he would have been a great guy to go get and bring in to be like, hey, 2-3 years, this is an elite quarterback who can maximize your next little run here. The fact that he doesn't want to come here because Cam Newton sucked so much, I mean, you can't predict that, but that's an indictment.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, look, I just think it emphasizes the fact that they have to do one of three things. They have to get the guy through the draft or the bottom of the market, or it's got to be Garoppolo because he was already here. He was technically the next guy right after Brady, and he learned the system through years, and then they got rid of him because Brady stayed. But I think that's the three that I look at. It's got to be a drafted guy, a bottom of the market bridge guy, like an Andy Dalton type or a Cam Newton type, or it's got to be Garoppolo.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for today's program. Again, lots of football discussion, but that's just the time of year. Conference championships, playoffs, Super Bowl. Super Bowl 55 will be next Sunday. We'll be live on Sunday at 11 a.m. like always, doing here the show through Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. Thanks to our friends at Restream. And then we will be doing a Super Bowl show on Monday to give you guys some instant reaction to the game. Obviously, we made our predictions today. Things might change by next Sunday, but I doubt it. I doubt either one of us is going to really change how we feel. So we'll be able to pick through more of the media week stuff for you guys and react to all that stuff and more of the general storyline things leading into the game next Sunday during our normal show. But thanks to everybody who tuned in and listened with us live here today. Thanks for engaging on the chat sections. If you missed today's show, you can go back and watch on any of our platforms, and you can also subscribe to the 360 Sports Show podcast through Sounder FM or wherever you get your podcasts from, so you can take the 360 Sports Show on the go. So that'll do it for us, folks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you next Sunday. See you, everybody.
Yep.